I'm Will Fry.
I'm Tanner Cook. I'm Mason Wheeler.
I'm Joshua Soper, and we are opening for questioning on the topic of politics and Christianity.
Should Christians get involved in politics?
Yes, absolutely.
Why?
It represents our religion as Christians. We can act on issues that are not seen as, or we can act on issues that we would think, like abortion and immigration, choose our side of it as it relates to the gospel.
So don't we have separation of church and state in this country? So should I make everybody follow what my beliefs are as a Christian?
I think if you're in politics and you're a Christian, you should act on what the gospel says and what you believe in.
What if I represent a primarily Muslim neighborhood?
Well, if you still are believing in Christianity, believe in, I guess, what you believe in what is right.
I think maybe like the fact is that if you're a culture trying to impose on another culture, it will most obviously be negative towards the image. So in a way, we would kind of like to at least make our position clear on the subject. We're not saying we are making you change from Muslim to Christian, but that this is just what we believe at the moment.
If I can add a comment as well, I think the Christian worldview pertains to all vocations. So doctors, teachers, politicians, everyone. And I don't think it necessarily, if you're a Christian doctor, your job isn't to, your job first is to be an effective physician, provide medicine and care to your patient. I think a Christian politician, their role first, if they're in a predominantly Muslim neighborhood or a predominantly Christian neighborhood, they need to provide and enforce policy that's best for the neighborhood, not necessarily based on scripture first, but they should go about it in a way backed by scripture with strong ethics and morality to go with them, but the policy doesn't necessarily need to be influenced solely by the Bible, because we are a free nation with free religion, church and state.
What should a Christian politician do in defense from the
Because the contemplation itself of the Bible.
even if that maybe isn't for the constituents that are represented by them?
And I think the way our government's structured to elect people, that's where it becomes a tough issue, and I think we have the problem of so many people in Congress right now who are claiming Christianity but not necessarily acting, I think that we could agree as Christians should, because the issue of re-election and keeping that job comes into play, and they bend on when scripture and policy are let the people want to clash, they bend and break inside with the people, and because they're focused more on re-elections and upholding their values, and I think that's where a lot of the problems that Christians and politicians in this issue as a whole come from. Because when you bend something like scripture so much, it breaks and it loses its value.
Mason, we have a representative government, correct?
Yes.
So people are elected to represent their constituents, to Mr. Small's point, correct?
Yes.
So does representative government mean I should represent those constituents to the best of my ability, or I should represent my faith to the best of my ability?
I do believe that if you are going to be elected into a position, that you should openly state your beliefs, and that you will be elected based off the community that you in, based off of those beliefs. Because in Congress today, 88.2% of all Congress members claim to be Christian, and the second highest, at I believe 23%, would have to be is Jewish. So, and you see that those people are elected, and that they use that Christianity as kind of a springboard to get elected, because compare that to the 71% of U.S. adults that claim to be Christian. They are the ones who are the votes, so they kind of use their beliefs as a way to vote in people similar to their beliefs. So going back to the, say you represent a Muslim neighborhood, I don't necessarily necessarily believe that there will be many scenarios where a openly Christian politician running for office will be voted into office based off the demographic of that. I believe that they will search for a more focused Muslim candidate to be represented.
When you're able to vote, Mason, are you gonna vote for somebody predominantly based on whether their faith lines up with your faith?
That will be a deciding factor. Like,
Okay.
one of the major deciding factors when I will be able to vote would be pro-life. I could not see myself voting for anybody with pro-choice, and if I line up with all their other policies, but they're pro-choice, I will not do.
So there's things on policies will affect you. Also, there's things on, their religious views will affect you as well, but there's things on policy maybe a predominant thing that you would look at?
Yes.
In your research, did you notice over the last, let's say, 4 or 8 years, more Christians getting back into the politics,
It's
or
actually
less?
It's slightly declining.
Yes.
Very, just by a small percentage, but there are less Christians in the 116th Congress versus the 115th.
Yes, it went from 90.7% in the 115th Congress down to 88.2% in the 116th.
Will, in your answer to a previous question, you talked about some of the problems with Christians getting involved in politics. Did you identify what some of those problems are?
I think the norm of politicians being sworn in on the Bible, kind of putting that out there as their religion, and then not really dealing with it anywhere else is the problem, because then you get kind of that weird mix of lukewarm Christians. And when I say problem, I mean more specifically it's a problem for Christianity, the church, not as much for the political system, because I think when those people that swear in on the Bible, say they're Christian, are in that 88% of Congress, make policy, act in ways, say things that don't relate to Scripture, they're in such a position of power and under such a magnifying glass. I think that does a lot of damage to the church and the way Christians are perceived. And I think a lot of that has contributed to the way and the reason we're in post-Christian time. And I think that's
Doesn't that represent Christianity in general in the United States? A lot of
Absolutely.
people claim to be Christians but don't really live it out.
absolutely. 71% of adults in the U.S. as a whole claim to be Christian. And then, so the 88% people in Congress, so it's a bigger percentage even in Congress that's reflected in just American society in general. So I would almost argue that it's even worse in politics than it is in society, because the norm is you swear on the Bible, that's Christianity. So in the book, it says this person is a Christian, and that's all we really get to see because we're on the outside. And they do things that we disagree with or we think are biblical, and it makes the rest of us that gravitate as Christians well.
Why would a politician, maybe even before going into politics, not really have much affiliation with Christianity, maybe doesn't attend church or take that very seriously? Why would they choose suddenly to maybe embrace that label as a elected?
I think it's, 71% of the population still is claiming Christianity. So even though we are seeing it decline, we are in a post-Christian era, it's still the popular, most likable route to take by the majority of the American public. So I think claiming it can still help you win an election, but actually, with the way things are run now, I think acting it out and running the race after you win being a politician, doing it totally ethically and adhering to Scripture can actually hinder you in that position, as far as winning the election and stuff like that.
To his point, with the advantage to claiming as a Christian, I believe that most churches are like a center of the community, and that one of the major factors in deciding is you want a representative that embraces that community, and whereas it is such a high percentage of claiming Christians in America, they want to feel connected, and the church is kind of a place to connect with others. So they might use that as a way to kind of use that as way to get to know or to give the appearance of knowing or having similar connections to.
I think it's when you're going into office and you don't have a set religion that you're like firmly with. I think Christianity is like the main one to choose because the government was founded on some Christian values. People see Christianity, especially if you want the Republican vote, they see that as a plus in the race. So.
Talk to me a little bit about how the country was founded on some Christian values that you just described.
Well, the basis of Christianity, they didn't, so the United States is the freedom of religion, so whatever religion, but our founding fathers, they chose certain parts that they wanted, like God bless the USA and stuff like that. That's put into our coins and other stuff here and there, license plates, you see it. It's talking about a God, but is it talking about the Christian God? That's where some people start to get that argument, but I think it's talking about the Christian God. I think that those small Christian values help structure a government. I think that government without any religion at all is bound to fail because you're relying on a person, not anybody else, like a God or anything. You're just relying on one person not to make any mistakes and to be perfect. So I think founding a government on some values of a religion is helpful in growing that government.
So in God we trust on our bills, that's meant to be ambiguous.
Well, that was actually put in place during the Civil War.
Okay.
It was kind of it was a dark time for America, and they used that to run the money as a way to kind of rally behind something. So it wasn't necessarily here we're going to worship God and that's going to be it. It was more just trying to give the people something to fight for, as like, this is God's country, this is in God we trust, we're going to get through this.
And one thing I would like to say about the founders is that the founders thought that religion was indispensable to a system of republican self-government, in which the founders looked at the religion and the morality informed by religious faith to provide the internal moral compass that would prompt citizens to behave in a disciplined manner and thereby promote social order and political stability. So in other words, they kind of want to at least make sure that we know what we should do and what we should not do to start with based off of the Christian beliefs that they brought over. And again, over time, they've slowly, gone away from this Christian ethics that was originally based upon. But how could we say, if it was maybe a Muslims instead of Christians, do you think maybe they would have faced the lies of their Muslim belief instead? So yeah.
I do have a point to that, though. A quote from John Adams that I have, it says, "The government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion." And I found that very interesting because we always hear that these are all good old God-fearing men who founded this country for God. And it kind of makes you look back and say that they wanted a government that was founded on morality more than anything, because any government that founds its laws not on some form of religious beliefs ends in tyranny, because they're looking for guidance from a single source from somewhere. So they were more deists than anything. They knew there was something, but they didn't want to follow that something. They believed that it was more of a watchful eye than a guiding hand. And that's also, and then another quote from Thomas Jefferson to John Adams is quite harsh on religion, when it says that the day will come when this mystical generation of Jesus, by the Supreme Being in the womb of a virgin, will be classed with the fable of the generation of Minerva and the brain of Jupiter. But we may hope that the dawn of reason and freedom of thought in these United States will do away with these artificial scaffolding. So they were very harsh on religion, but you can still see that within the founding of it, they still try to put in moral stability. So I think that goes back to Christianity and politics, because they didn't intend for this to be a theocracy guided by God, but they intended to have religious freedom. So I believe that all religions should be represented within our government. That's why I believe that it's a very fine line that most Christians must follow.
So some of you and Josh said, some of which was in conflict, but would you
Yeah.
say that Christianity was maybe the moral foundation that our government and our laws were built upon?
Yes. It was,
provided some level of moral.
it was a foundation, not the bricks that built it.
I would say, I agree with the John Adams quote a lot, that America wasn't necessarily founded on the religion of Christianity. We don't see Jesus mentioned in the Constitution and all that, but the values that it was founded on, I think, is like freedom, hard work, and following the law. That those are Christian values that line up with the biblical worldview. You can live those and uphold the biblical worldview. So I don't think it's founded on the Christian religion, but it is founded on Christian values, whether you want to admit that or not.
Most of the stats you all shared have been based on Congress, but I mean, did you get any stats or feedback on local involvement? For example, I feel like in the past 4 to 8 years, you've seen a resurgence of Christians taking a leadership role in their communities, whereas maybe 20 years ago, you know, Christians kind of laid low, stayed out of politics, and then because of 9/11, because of certain people being in office, you see a resurgence. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just was curious as your statistics for that.
I don't personally have local statistics.
I don't have any statistics from things at the local level, but I would agree with you and say that I think that is kind of an evident trend on the local and national level. I know Andy Barr, who's just elected here, is pretty serious about his faith, or at least that's what I've gathered from the way he presents himself. I think we do see, although the numbers are declining in Congress and on certain sides of things, we do see more people. I mean, I would argue that Mike Pence, our current vice president, was one of the more outwardly Christian politicians we've seen in a while, regardless if you agree with his policies or he makes a point to emphasize that part of his life.
Do you see a split, or you mentioned 88% were Christians just in government, I believe was one of the percentages you gave. Did you guys find anything about what that percentage is in the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party?
Yes, I have stuff on that. It is a larger percentage in the Republican Party.
The Republicans come out to 99.2%, and the Democrats come out to 78.4%.
One thing I found was interesting is Catholicism is bigger among Democrats than it is Republicans. There are, of the 471 Christians, Congress Christians, 163 claim to be Catholic, and of those, 87 are Democrat, 54 are Republican. So Protestantism is much more popular amongst the Republicans. My statistics also factor in Mormonism with Christianity, which I thought was interesting. I don't have hard statistics on where Mormonism and Orthodox Christianity falls under that branch within Congress. I don't know as much about it.
And Mormonism makes up 1.4% of that large margin of claiming Christians.
You were talking earlier about how Mason, you said you would vote for someone who is pro-life. You couldn't see anyone, so you couldn't see yourself voting for anyone who's pro-choice necessarily. Are there any issues of Christians who are involved in politics that they cannot have, like there's only one stance they really should take if they are Christians in politics, or is there kind of a range of beliefs people can take on a lot of different issues if they're Christians in politics?
I believe some are much more cut and dry, whereas like abortion, like the third trimester abortion that just went in New York, I don't think those are right. I think that's a clear-cut answer since that is a human life and it has a heartbeat. But that's a whole different discussion. But on cases such as like immigration, the Bible doesn't necessarily lay out a clear plan for immigration, because in the Bible you see them refusing people, killing people, taking them in. It's kind of a mixed bag. So I believe that in decisions like that, I'm more lenient to listen to their policy because it's not a clear-cut answer. And that, but if they're trying to follow with their spiritual convictions, then I'm more apt to.
So, Coach Calloway talked about a resurgence of